this time, we have a 20-minute period of taking comments from the floor. There will be one mic there in the center, which if you'd like to make a comment, ask a question, you can go to the center of. We'll also have and we also have a floating mic for those who aren't able to come up, and we can bring this as well.
Aloha kākou. Mahalo nui for all of you presenting.
Sorry, please introduce yourself too when you speak.
Okay. Aloha kākou. I'm Nalani Minton. I'm a professor here at the School of Nursing, but my background is clinical psychology, and I work with a focus on recovery from intergenerational trauma. I'm the only niece of my uncle, Dr. Kamakakūokalani, and my mom is his only sister. And along with about 500 other people, I helped to organize the International People's Tribunal in 1993. And what I want to do is invoke a little bit of what Uncle had in mind to help all of us. I just spent time with him yesterday, his 90th birthday. He's still reading, still with us. So one of the things that the tribunal did, as Kaleikoa was saying, it provided a space and a process for Kanaka Maui people and communities, especially those living on ancestral lands where they were being evicted, to have a voice. And one of the things that we have to do is create a process for all of our people to have a voice. One of the things that, that happens a lot of times is that executive committee or institutions or organizations or people that already have power, authority, and money have the voice. But in the tribunal, what we really did was that people came from all over the world and listened to our people. Our own Queen, Lilikalā, said that sovereignty, the real sovereignty of our people, is when the Aloha for the Aina rises up in us and gives voice to our ancestors, to all that came before us, all that stands before us, and all that we know. Now, one of the things that happened in the tribunal is that about 4 months after it was held, the Public Law 103-150 was created. Davianna was part of that process, my uncle was part of that process. It's important to know that even though it is in the format of American law, there were intentions that were put in there by our kupuna, such as uncle. One of the things was that he knew that the tribunal had already laid out the legal case for us as a people to be independent. So we still have that, all that mana'o. We will give it to any of you for free. Lula and I created a website. The law school has helped us to inventory everything. It's all available to everyone. It already lays out the legal case because we invited other indigenous nations to participate and some of the best legal minds and indigenous leaders that we knew at that time to come and help with the process. So we need to make sure that we look at some of the things that our kupuna has left us. Also, in the Public Law 103-150, even though there are pitfalls that are in any American document, because some of our own people helped to write that document, it is the first apology ever given to an indigenous people and nation by the United States. And it tells in a very brief but understandable form the whole history of the illegal actions taken. It's like admission, it's evidence of the United States. It also says that we are free to transmit our land, our culture, our language, our knowledge to future generations. It doesn't say that we are limited to anything but our own ways of transmitting that mana'o. We have to realize that in American law, possession is 9/10 of the law. But if we look at the possession of our lands, We already have everything held in trust for us as a people. We have to demand that that held in trust for us, that undivided interest, that those native rights, that those so-called ceded lands, that the Kuleana lands, that Kaho'olawe, that the DHHL lands, that all of these lands are ours. When we add it up, and KS is still the biggest landholder, that is supposed to be being held for us. We have to know that cultural self-determination demands that we come from a cultural position, not necessarily any other model, but the one that we know. And one of the common denominators is our ahupua'a knowledge, is our Aloha Aina that comes from each ahupua'a, each community, knowing their place, knowing their land, knowing the mana'o, knowing the mo'olelo, understanding the history of that place, and all of the resources and all of the life sources that are there for the people. We have to take that kind of a stand where even through the decolonization process of the UN, they give you at least 2 years to organize your people, to educate your people, and to make a process for your people to participate and have a voice. It's the least that we could do. It's required by international law. We should at least be developing that by listening to our people on every island and every ahupua'a. So I'll just close because I know other people want to speak. But I just want to say that we have our own laws. We have our own kind of laws. And in the spirit of the law, the spirit of the people can live through our own mana'o, through our own mahalo.
My name is Andre Perez. I'm from Aloha, Hawaii. And I represent an organization called Mana Movement for Aloha Aina. I just want to get down to the nitty-gritty because we can go on. We can go on and on. But what we're talking about is governance. And what we're talking about is self-determination for Hawaiians. And what everyone has said is a process where we agree, we have to collectively, as a Lāhui, figure out what we want to do as a people. And I think the most important part to focus on is the misconception that we have that we have a fair, impartial process for our people to make informed decisions. Understanding that the Kaka bill was forced on us for 10 years. From 2000 to 2010, they debated it. It was debated on the floor of Congress by Kaka himself, without our consent. The Office of Hawaiian Affairs poured in probably close to $20 million from what we hear from their own employees. And yet there's been no process. How many Kanaka have participated in a public hearing, a process for federal recognition? On the record, on the US record. Where? When? Tell me where, when? Never happened. In fact, it has happened one time, 2000, August of 2000. There was one federal recognition hearing where the opposition was overwhelmingly opposing federal recognition. And yet every public forum that we've had as a Lāhui, every public opportunity that we've had, the opposition has been overwhelming. You can look at the record, video record, written records. But yet, Office of Hawaiian Affairs, our so-called leaders in the community, the state of Hawaii, they get deaf ear. They get deaf ear to the people. So when we talk about a process, my question to the panel, I'd like all four of you to answer, if possible. Understanding that Kamakakūokalani was born out of Act 195, state legislation. We didn't even know that was coming down the pipe. Nobody knew. We were all caught by surprise. Who authored Act 195? We can't even answer it. Came down and he created Kamakakūokalani and he created this commission where the Governor Abercrombie appointed commissioners. We didn't choose those commissioners. The governor appointed them. Act 195 creates Kamakakūokalani. Kamakakūokalani is created to establish this role And what is a role? We look at the history of roles, and we can look to the Dolls Act and the Dolls Role Commission. And roles are historically come with clear legal political implications. When you say role, you're talking within the U.S. framework, you're talking a history of Native American Indian law based on assimilation. So we're starting right off from a state legislation that's putting Hawaii in a role, and this political implicated terminology. Does that meet the criteria for self-determination? And then you have the master plan, the convention that's going to happen sometime next year. Who was part of designing that? My understanding that it was designed by an ad hoc committee consisting of 5 OHA employees, not us. 5 OHA employees has designed this convention. And then once you sign up and you agree to be put into a role, into the U.S. framework of inherent sovereignty, which means the consent to be governed, then you get to participate somewhere down the line, way down the line. So my question is, can we really say, Kanai this role, this list, meets the definition of self-determination? And if so, how? How? I hope to get an answer from all 4 of you. Mahalo.
We'll get to Andre's question too. Just for the sake of getting those in line, your opportunity to pose your questions, if you could try to keep it to a minute so that we can try to respond to everything that comes up.
Okay. Aloha. I have a question about consensus and also people who benefit from this. These monies are coming from the federal government. It seems that the U.S. government is spending a lot of money to the state to find out and get consensus from our people, which they never had at any time in our history. They need that consensus so that they can take our lands and take everything that belongs to us as a people, including our sovereignty, including our total independence as a country. And yet certain members of the Hawaiian community, and I've seen them throughout the different meetings, they and their families benefit from these commission meetings, from these hearings, from Kaleikoa, from whether Kaho'olawe is also, run by an entity or whoever is in control of these things. I've seen certain Hawaiian families and people who claim Kanaka blood, they have profited from our lands and our positions as far as the government is concerned, and they continue to do this. And they don't disclose what they receive in the background. What they have received from OHA, or their positions in OHA, or their families have received, or their friends have received. And yet behind it all, we know as Kanaka, we know as Hawaiians, because Hawaii is a small place, that these families and these people receive a lot of money, a lot of benefit. And they don't tell that to us, but they keep telling us, oh, we gotta do this and we gotta do that. And yet we see in DOI meetings that we as the people, the majority of the people, at least on Maui when I was in Hana, because I went to speak for the land that we're from Hana and from Lahaina, we said, no, get out, we don't want you here, no. We don't want your DOI organization. But I noticed the people who stood up, and there was pro for the U.S. government, their families received land. They got powerful positions in Hawaii. And they connected with the government, and they connected with business, and they connected with all these things. And they're working for these people. And I have a problem with that. I have a big problem with that. Because even in all our families, we're all speaking about this behind closed doors. Who screwed over Kamehameha schools? Who is stealing? What families are stealing money from there now? What families now, for these reasons, the Danners or whatever, these certain names come up all the time, that they're behind these things because what power are they going to control, what they're going to maintain as a family? What political basis they're gaining. And that's the big thing. That's what a lot of this comes down to. And we don't want to discuss that, but my question is, why is there no public disclosure? Why is there all this sneakiness that goes behind? I myself work for one nonprofit. They get $3 million in 3 years from the federal government. $1 million a year. But in my eyes, I saw the books. How much money really goes to the kids? Only maybe, you're lucky, $200,000. The rest is all administrative costs. Something wrong with that picture. Something is And yet we like run nonprofits, we like run the government. But we going to benefit from that because we supposed to be the top over here with the education. But you know what, again, 90% come off the outside there. They don't agree. They're all talking in their families. And they're your families. They're the ones that never make it into this university. And what are you folks doing to remember that 90% outside there? That's my question.
Hello, my name is Kilo Masman, son of Kala Masman and Ōiwi Kanahele Masman. And I'm a student here at UH Manoa. I'll be real quick. I just had a question for Kaleikoa and John. Do you see, or is it a possibility to see the nation-to-nation decision as a government? Can that be a stepping stone to reach independence, or is that just a final destination and nation-to-nation and independence is two separate final destinations? That's my question, Mahalo.
Aloha, my name is Tika. I'm an art student from UH Manoa, and I have two questions. One is, it mainly deals with art and understanding, and I wanted to know if there's any resources or people that actually, how do you say this, tackle these political issues within the Hawaiian community, and who are they? And my second question is, how can we, for me, I'm not really good with resources, so how can we even trust these different resource programs if they're very private about their information and don't really tell us the truth for the matter? Thank you.
So my question is, I'm a student here at UH Manoa. My question is to all of you. First of all, mahalo. Concerning your guys' plans moving forward with the Lāhui, well, when it comes to Hawaiian homestead land, there is a blood quantity that concerns all of us Hawaiians. And before the overthrow, there was all types of races in Hawaii, all types of Hawaiian citizens. And moving forward, I'm not hearing anything about blood quantum, which is a good thing because I don't think that should be a part of anything doing with our Lāhui. I want to know how that affects other citizens who are nationally Hawaiian, yet not Hawaiian in blood. I want to know how us as a people are going to move forward between those people, because they've been here for 100 years and still move here and have no blood ties, yet their peoples, some of their ancestors are in this ground, on this Āina. And just moving forward, that's a big thing for me, because if we're going to move forward as a nation, there were people that did coup against annexation, against overthrow, that were not Hawaiian. And I think those people should be recognized. As I said, I am a Hawaiian, but my family, you look at me, most people don't see Hawaiians. And I want to know, for us, we didn't get as much benefits as other Hawaiians, but I think this is everything. I want to know what's moving forward, how everything's going to be effective for all types of Hawaiians, nationally and ethnically.
Aloha, my people. I'm Lilikalā and consider myself to be a student of all four of these. Great. Aloha and mahalo for regions. My question is really though to Lilikalā and to Davianna. And it's a sort of simple question. You don't go into the lion's den without an exit strategy. And I don't in any way doubt the intentions of either of you and your aloha for the Lāhui, but as was raised by the other side, there are obviously forces within the state that have their eyes intent on settling and creating a single centralized entity with which they can settle. So, for example, the fear could be that a Native Hawaiian governing entity formulates and they try to negotiate to just give that entity control over the Hawaiian homelands and Kaho'olawe and maybe a few other parcels. So if that whole state recognition process, and the other part of that, we have to remember that Yolowalu is not federal recognition, it's merely state recognition. And the legislators who put it forward have explicitly said, I've heard come straight out of their mouths that they put Act 195 forward because federal recognition was not forthcoming, so they just wanted to at least secure state recognition. Anyway, with all that context, what is the exit strategy to get out of that if things start going down the road that we all feel is going to be threatening to our relationship to our national land?
I'm going to give the panelists a little time to gather their thoughts and we'll respond. It's the very last one.
I was wondering if you guys could just shoot down the road and just tell me if you guys' final destination of the vision for the people of Hawaii for an Alpuni or a Lāhui.